Now's the time to really.
This blanket was coated in aerogel.
He's about to put the flamethrower full
As the
bore
flamethrower
on blanket. Just 1
hits the
centimeter away
aerogel,
will be
it's going to disperse the heat
on the back
so that the
of
other
blanket.
side is completely not hot.
I'm ready.
Which things are chemical changes and which things are physical changes in this little experiment?
You going hard? Come in. I don't feel any heat. A little warm? That is crazy. It feels a little warm. Propane burns at about 2,000 Celsius. So this blanket is doing an incredible job. I barely feel any warmth.
Hey folks, welcome back to our Properties of Matter unit. We'll be reviewing the difference between physical and chemical properties. In the clip you just saw, did you see any chemical properties? Good. The flamethrower for sure is creating a chemical change. What about the physical properties? The aerogel itself is non-conductive. That's a physical property of matter. Hey, don't forget you have some work to do, okay? As far as keeping up to date, make sure you're checking Schoology as much as possible. We're working on an assignment called How Matter Changes. It's due November 11th. You can find it right in Schoology. Make sure you read the article that goes along with the questions. You get 2 tries, and it's due Wednesday, the 11th. Next, we have a Properties of Matter quiz coming up soon. It'll be launched on Schoology on the 11th, and it'll be due the 18th. Make sure you review, open the folder, study your notes, do the review games and items inside the folder before you try to take the quiz. And finally, don't forget your superhero is still in action. We want your superhero to be completely done by the 25th. That's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Your rough draft should be due this Wednesday, the 11th, and then you're going to convert that into a nice final project, which will include your hand-drawn picture and your written revised. All right, folks, let's take a look inside of our packet and find the page that looks just like this. We want you to decide whether something is physical or chemical property by putting a P for physical or C for chemical in the correct column. A few have been done for you. Remember to ask yourself the question, is the material the exact same thing I started with, and I can easily reverse the process? That's physical. Or have I created a new compound that is difficult to reverse, which would be a chemical? Why don't you pause the video, come back in a couple minutes, and we'll go over the answers. All right, we're back. Hopefully you've paused and you've finished the choices. Let's continue on with solubility. Being able to dissolve, no matter what it is always a physical property. Think about sugar dissolving in water. You have sugar in water. You still have the same materials you started with. Subordinate combustion. Combustion means fire, and fire is always a chemical change. A sour taste is a physical property. If you taste something, you haven't changed the material, you're just testing to see if it's sour. However, having a sour taste can sometimes be an indicator that a chemical change has taken place. Melting point is always a physical property. All of the changes of matter from solid to liquid to gas and back again are all physical properties. Think about melting an ice cube. You still have water. The word reacting always means chemical change. Reacting with the water to form a gas. Reacting with a base to form water. Hardness is a physical property of matter, the ability to be scratched. The boiling point is a physical property. It tells you at what temperature a material will go from a liquid to a gas. Neutralize a base. The word neutralize indicates that a reaction has happened. This could mean an acid and a base come together and form something neutral. That is a chemical reaction. Luster is a physical property of how shiny something is. Odor also is a physical property. When you smell something, you're not changing the material. However, odor can be an indicator that a chemical change happened if the odor changes. All right, let's continue on with the back. Physical or chemical change. Pause the video. P for physical change, C for chemical change. Okay, we're back. Erosion of a riverbed means the materials are being washed away, but they're not being changed. Physically being moved around is a physical change. Leaves changing color, however, happens because the chemicals in the leaves are breaking down and changing. Glass breaking is physical because you still have the glass you started with. Carving a statue would be something similar to that, or cutting something. Rusting, however, is chemical. Rust cannot be reversed and turned back into the metal you started with. All you can do is wipe the rust away. Sanding and ice cream melting are both physical. However, explosions and fire would be chemical. Anytime you see something involving cooking, you know a chemical reaction is taking place. Think about it this way. Can you unbake a cake or uncook some food? No. Cooking starts with C, chemical. Chocolate melting. Melting is not changing the material at all, other than turning it from a solid to a liquid. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. When you see these phase changes, it's always physical. Frying an egg is chemical. The cooking process has occurred. Cutting grass is simply physical. Evaporation is a physical property. Vinegar mixing with baking soda. Do you know what happens? A chemical reaction occurs, creating bubbles of effervescent carbon dioxide. Spoiling food cannot be undone. Once food is spoiled, it is spoiled. That's a chemical change that happened. Burning toast implies there was some flammability, chemical reaction with fire, chemical. Melting is always physical. Cooking is always chemical. Lighting a match involves fire, therefore it's chemical. Mothballs disappear over time. Why do they do this? They turn from a solid directly to a gas. This is a material that is actually going to keep moths away because of the smell. They turn from solid to gas, and that is a physical change. Photosynthesis is a chemical process where plants take in carbon dioxide and water and turn it into sugars. That was a chemical change. New material was created. A red mark appears after a bee sting. That's a chemical process happening in your body. Anything to do with living things is most often going to be chemical. Hydrochloric acid on marble making something new that wasn't there is always a chemical change. Whenever you get a new compound, you're creating a chemical change. All right, guys, let's take a minute to talk about that superhero project. Now that you've seen some properties of matter, and don't forget you can put not in front of those, think about some imaginary materials or real materials like aerogel. How could you create something really interesting for your superhero that has maybe non-conductive, non-flammable? Maybe it does conduct electricity, or maybe it's just impossible to scratch or break. Think about some properties that you can put on your imaginary hero, or maybe it's on the clothes they wear or the vehicle they use, but create something that would be really interesting. I'll put in a couple pictures so that you can see some examples of what some people have done in the past for their hero project. Well, guys, thanks for joining us today. Hopefully you've got a little bit better understanding of physical versus chemical change, and you're up to date on some of the things that are due. Hope you enjoyed the class, and thanks for trying science. See you next time.